Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. Have you ever wondered when was the first time I made a contact with Classroom Elite? Well, my first contact with Classroom Elite was actually quite funny. For a note, I didn't know about this series through the anime or the meme where Ayanokoji flexing his tools, but the first thing I saw from this series is this illustration.
Wait a minute!
Yes, you don't see it wrong. It was not the fanbase glazing Ayanokoji, not the fan service, and obviously not the story itself, but the dick comparison scene. It was back in 2018 when I got bored during college, so I decided to find some anime to waste time. This is quite common to see, but I was the type of person who look at social media before I decide to watch an anime. And believe it or not, this illustration was the first thing I saw when I typed Classroom Elite on Twitter back then. Volume 8 has just been released, and the fanbase literally going crazy over this illustration, so I decided to read what the hell that's supposed to mean. I don't really remember how I get it, but someone posted a translation on Pastebin, so I decided to give it a read. Of course, I don't even know who's talking to whom, but the content itself is diabolical.
Oh my god!
It's rare for me to laugh, so I instantly like it. I thought it was a comedy series, and I like the writing style, so I decided to look for more information. And just imagine how long it took me to believe this series is psychological and suspense, and the English title is Classroom of the Elite. I mean, what? What about the dick? Okay, just forget about the dick. Let's take a look at this season 1 anime trailer. Oh man, Horikita looks gorgeous. She looks like a thicker version of Yuki no Shita, and you know I love Origairu. So despite some negative reviews, I started my journey from the first episode, and just imagine what I felt back then. The first episode literally started with Nizu quotes and Ayanokoji asking about equality, and Koenji is entertaining as usual, but after that, nothing. Well, not exactly nothing. I do realize just how similar the characters are to Origairu, but sadly this series is not a romantic comedy where problematic student try to help another problematic student. But honestly, the first episode of Classroom Elite is weird. The whole concept of the school system is interesting, and I do enjoy the dynamic between Ayanokoji and Horikita, but I cannot really grasp what this series tried to convey. Even for a slow start episode, episode 1 doesn't really give me a solid reason why I need to watch the second episode. It seems like they cannot make up their minds whether this series will be psychological, comedy, slice of life, or suddenly turn into suspense at the end, and maybe that's why the cliffhanger doesn't bite me. However, I still decide to watch the second episode, and then the third, the fourth, and somehow finally made it to the end. To be honest, it was mid, seriously. I don't even remember how I survived the first half of the season. The whole story revolving around the study group and Sakura was genuinely boring, and if it were not for the island exam, I will definitely drop this series. The last 4 episodes literally carry the whole season, and at least it gives me a bit of hope for the continuation. However, another problem suddenly appeared for me who wants to know the continuation of the story, which is no season 2. It's crazy to think it will take another 4 years before season 2 eventually arrives, but thanks to that, I ended up sailing ship on the Classroom Elite subreddit, and that's where I learned season 1 is actually a pretty bad anime adaptation. There will be no end if we talk about it, so let's just say after a long struggle to find a good translation, I actually started reading the novel from the very first volume, and they were right, it's way better than the anime. The biggest difference is how Ayanokoji was shown in both media. While the anime made him look like a robot, like novel Ayanokoji actually thinks more like a high schooler with his silly, sharp, and sometimes out of the box way of thinking. It's actually way more enjoyable without all those shrink skins and excessive fan service, and even the second volume was way more tolerable compared to the anime. Needless to say, I read everything up to the 8th volume, and finally able to understand the full picture of the dick comparison scene. For a note, you should know that it was really hard to find a proper translation back in 2018, because even the official English translation was not yet a thing back then. It was a rock and yet a short journey, but ever since that, waiting for the newest volume of Classroom Elite has become one of my daily routines. Now that I think about it, it's actually really weird how I made the first contact with Classroom Elite. If it was a normal illustration of Ayanokoji or Horikita, I probably would have given up after the anime. But this scene where a group of boys are just acting their act is the reason I believe there is something more to this series compared to what they told you on the internet. Of course, I cannot say this series has changed my life or something, but still, Classroom Elite is one of the series that I have followed for the longest time. And now here is another question. If I have been following this series for 8 years now, why did I only start making content 2 years ago? Well, I'm not proud of it, but I was unemployed 2 years ago and cannot find a job for almost a year. So rereading Classroom Elite from the first volume is one of many things I did to pass time. It was during that time that I got really fond of Yori's character. You know how she looks like, a bookworm type character with silver hair and slender body. It's just my type. So I start to pay quite a lot of attention every time she appears. I think it was in volume 9 that I realized Ayanokoji started calling her by her first name, even though he never asked or had any reason to change how he called her. It was just a fun fact that I don't really think about, but for some reason, I do want to share it with someone. You know, when you are unemployed for too long, you will start to crave a feeling of actually working on something. So inspired by how much money Mr. Beast made from his channel, the idea of creating a YouTube channel came to my mind. You can still see the first video I made in his channel, and it was a fun fact about Yori's name with a crappy voice and terrible editing.
Did you know Hiyori is the only person Ayanokoji call by her first name without permission? Ayanokoji makes some friend during high school.
Well, I cannot say I have changed a lot, but that first video keeps coming to mind once in a while. If you check my old video, I actually used to make a video about 3 different series, which are Classroom Elite, One Piece, and Tower of God. However, since those 3 series have a really different market, it actually confused the YouTube algorithm, since it will have no idea to whom it needs to promote my video. So as you can see, I'm now 100% focused on Classroom Elite. It's still weird to see 2 years have passed ever since then, and who knows how many years I will keep doing this. It never was an easy journey, but I will try to keep up for as long as I can.
Did you know Hiyori is the only person Ayanokoji call by her first name without permission? Ayanokoji makes some friend during high school. Some of them close enough to be called by their first names such as Kei, Eri, Haruka, Kaisei, and Akito. But Ayanokoji called them by their first name after getting a permission. However, Ayanokoji start calling Hiyori name without even realize shortly after he know her, even though Hiyori's still calling him Ayanokoji-kun. Some people ask him about this, but Ayanokoji cannot explain why. It just happened naturally.